Well, here on the program, we are very much interested in helping South Africa grow and most definitely to help you get going as an entrepreneur. And our entrepreneurship slot is brought to you by the Industrial Development Corporation, the IDC. They themselves have been involved in supporting businesses for more than 75 years. And recently we heard from them that they've got 4.5 billion rands that's been set aside to support especially businesses owned and run by young people. Stuart Bartlett is responsible for that, and he is joining us to tell us a bit more about this. Stuart, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
Right, the development impact support that you are responsible for. Just explain a little bit what you do in your area.
Tim, the IDC is so much more than what people expect. Everybody expects it to be just a bank, an investment bank. IDC is so much more. Its focus is on development. And one of the things that we've realized is that we need to bring more and more people into the center of the economy, particularly in a country like ours, where, let's face it, getting jobs is difficult. So we need to build this entrepreneurial mindset, and the entrepreneurial development is very critical to this whole program. And people that have been marginalized for so long out of the economy. So Development Impact Support Department is focused on making sure that IDC meets certain development outcomes. And particularly in this respect, it's broad-based BEE. It is youth, women empowerment, black industrialist, worker participation or worker ownership, community empowerment, and we can carry on right down, township economy and so on. And if we had to put it into one sentence, it's all about how do we get people that have been on the periphery of the economy, how do we put them into the middle of the economy as far as possible in every transaction that IDC does.
Well, it sounds well and good. The intentions are great. But I wonder if it is working from your experience so far, Stuart, if there are any particular highlights that come to mind that, you want to cite as examples.
Absolutely. I think if we look at the department is a year old, and with the focus specifically trying to drive these outcomes, we've seen a significant increase, not only because of the department being there, but because IDC has taken a concerted and a conscious effort to try and drive these outcomes throughout the SBUs that IDC has. So we've seen about a fourfold increase in youth-owned and youth-empowered businesses coming throughout in the last year. We've seen at least a threefold increase in finances going to women, and the same for black industrialists and BEE transactions in general. So you can see, certainly we can see, because we're focusing on it, because we have put resources to meet those particular outcomes, things are certainly on the up.
Let's talk about the challenges that face particularly the youth. One would say, but why separate the youth from everybody else? And I want to believe that they face a particular set of challenges that are unique compared to the typical challenges in business.
Absolutely. Youth come from are probably the most difficult to get into the center of the economy because they don't have experience. They don't necessarily always have the skills. They don't. People don't necessarily take them seriously in many cases because they don't have the capital behind them. So going and finding access to finance is difficult. They don't have those old boys networks and so on. We also very often come from a situation where education system where creativity and entrepreneurship is really not allowed to flourish. And so the young people, it's most difficult sector of our society to actually find jobs. And I think in South Africa in particular, between the ages of 16 and 24, we are amongst the most difficult countries in the world for youth employment, to find employment.
But I just want to come in there, but there are, though, notwithstanding all the issues that you've mentioned, there are specific areas where at least the youth can come in and start creating something for themselves, I suppose, you know, in the technology space and the other areas. You tell me.
Yes, and there's lots of spaces for youth, and what we do seem to find is that youth have moved into those with the lower hurdles or the less complicated barriers to entry. For example, the service sector, the retail sector. The unfortunate thing is IDC doesn't fund those. Those are the where our subsidiary CIFA participates and funds. But if we come back to IDC funds manufacturing. And it is probably the highest and the most complicated area for young people for those reasons I've mentioned, to participate. So, but we are finding, as I say, we're finding some really resilient youth, really creative youth, and youth that are incredibly entrepreneurial, getting involved. And even if we start at an empowered level rather than an ownership level, in other words, starting to take smaller shareholdings in businesses and then growing that, getting that experience and moving through. So we're finding, as I say, there's significant talent out there.
But what do you require from the same youth that want to access this funding?
We do realize, and we've, as IDC, in the last year or so, we've realized that youth need special attention. So what we've done as IDC is not only created the Development Impact Department, but we've identified key personnel with skills in youth development. And they are there to focus on making sure the youth transactions are helped through the system and so on. So we still expect a sustainable business to come to IDC. We're not going to drop our standards in terms of whether it's fundable or not. But what we'll do is we'll provide them with specific assistance. Pre-investment support, assisting the entrepreneurs to actually help them to meet some of the conditions that the funding requires. And then there's also a focus on post-investment. And this is primarily being driven through a program what we call the Youth Pipeline Development Program, which we work as a collective with some other units in IDC to drive this through.
Now, Stuart, how do you identify these youth? Do they come to you? Do you go out there looking for them? Just tell me about the process.
Well, it's a bit of a proactive approach. We go out there to try and get onto platforms. We try and work through a lot of intermediaries and members of this, what we call a youth ecosystem. Other organizations out there, talking to them, trying to get and promoting youth entrepreneurship and also what IDC offers. But we also are reactive, and youth can come into IDC's doors. And I think once we start getting this program of making them feel more comfortable coming through these hello doors of IDC, once they start feeling a little bit more comfortable through some of our strategies, I think we're going to find a lot more coming. Sometimes youth have found IDC it's quite an imposing building, and that they think it's a bridge too far. Yeah. We've got to make them feel that they can come to IDC. We need to then help them, and if they might have great ideas, their business plans might not be up to perfect, but then we need to help them. And I think that taking that approach is that we'll start building that pipeline that we talk about more effectively, and also bringing them into the...
Well, as we conclude the interview, what word of advice do you give those who may be part of the empowerment groups or the youth or whatever? What's the first step to take?
Think more than just selling. Move into making things. It's an area that the country seriously requires entrepreneurs to move into. In the manufacturing side, so moving to start thinking about making things, and we will be there to assist.
Stuart Bartlett, much appreciated. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much. Well, there you are, entrepreneurs. We are opening doors for you. The IDC is open for business. They do have the funding, the loans, the know-how, the skills, and they will provide you with the necessary information that you need. Keep talking to them, and let's help South Africa grow.